Briggy Kiddle, first of all, hello from the other side of the pond, and wanted to thank you. This is a collaboration that I've been doing with WRP, and because of this, we're sitting down and we're able to have this conversation. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, and thank you for your wonderful blog, Luke. It's such a great question, why? It's not asked enough in the world. It's more, how can I get more, but not why would I want that? So yeah. I'm just thrilled. I went to your blog. It's wonderful and inspirational. So I'm also very grateful for you to ask me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I know you as really, you've been a huge coach in my life recently, just in my own personal development and through some work with WRP. But for those who may not know who you are, do you want to just give us a little bit of an insight and background into some of what you've done and where you've been?
Yeah. My name is Briggy Kiddle, and you can detect an accent. So the accent is German. In fact, I lived the first 22 years of my life in Germany. Giving you a little bit of background into the era that was going on at the time I was born in 1956. So you're 10 years after the Second World War finished, which is not a lot of time. 10 years just goes like that. And it's still amazing to me that I had absolutely no clue throughout my childhood of what had just happened. Yeah. Things were rebuilt, and, my father was a civil engineer, and things were flourishing. But later on, in my earlier years, sort of maybe in 6, 7, 8 years old, I could hear stories. And the background of my family from my father's side is that he and my grandfather were very active in the resistance during the Hitler years, and smuggled hundreds of people across the moors into Belgium and saved their lives. And so whenever I said my name is Briggy, Lyons is my actual maiden name. And as soon as I mentioned my name, people would practically, sort of throw their arms out and say, "Wow, Richard's daughter." And so there was this immense opening in the rural area, because he was so well known as somebody who risked his life and stood up in his own integrity and wouldn't let people starve in the village, wouldn't just lie down and say Heil Hitler and not do something. Yeah. And he survived, and so did his father. And so growing up, it was almost fed with the mother's milk that one has to be brave.
Yeah.
That really was the main thing, even if it means you have to learn to lie. Would you believe it? Most parents teach their children to tell the truth. My father was teaching me how to lie convincingly with a completely straight face at people at the border, or people, who might have to have an influence in your life in a negative way.
But it was lying to protect the
yes, it was lying to protect yourself or other people.
Right.
So it was just a skill he believed was very, very necessary. And when you've already spoken to Pipa Sifik, who was in the Rwandan genocide,
right.
When we two are speaking, he too really learned how to say things and make up a story totally convincingly. It saves lives. And so my father was very, very clear. One had to be brave. And that meant not really any visible fear. Luckily, I'm of that nature anyway. I was already quite a tomboy out there, being full on in my life. But he would, for example, take us hunting, or me hunting, in the very dark forest, age 6 or 7, and in the middle of the dark forest, he would say, "Oh, I forgot something in the car." So he would have me go back, run. I would run back to the car to get his binoculars. And then when I run back, in the pitch dark, there is no torch, no nothing. And you have to learn intuition. You listen to every sound. You really feel the forest. And by the time I returned with the binoculars, he had gone ahead. So then it was trying to find him and really learning how to track, like American Indians. You put almost your ear to the ground. And that has been such a huge support for me and a huge base for me to stand in my life, to trust myself in the middle of nowhere when I have no one to turn to. I developed my faith. I think I really developed my faith and my trust. And all right, even in the dark, I'm going to find a way forward. And so I really had an upbringing that was full of tips and tricks, and he would swing the axe and I would hold on and he would just get it right there in the middle, you know, and swing it again. So it was all about having trust and faith and be brave and not flinch. And so really that's been my background, and it has helped me to go to places. I think what I'm known for is she goes where others stop. She goes ahead. So, because I just don't have fear in that way.
Yeah.
I don't experience it. In fact, I actually really had to learn how to have fear.
Yeah. So you really grew up with this life of learning how to deal with fear or not even dealing with it through having bravery from your father and your grandfather. And you mentioned something that I really the imagery is kind of beautiful. Being able to have faith in the darkness, literally. And how has that led into the rest of your life, in whether your work life or family or any other part of your life later on after that? What has that done to help you face those really dark times?
Well, just before we go to the dark times, the other part I've always been attracted to, which was a significant time of my life, is the light. So I grew up in quite a strict religious context. The whole country is Catholic in my area. So you would go to church, you'd do things, you know, go through all the steps. And I was a very active child. So in church, I would typically be really bored to sit for an hour. But I would focus on this candle at the front of next to the altar. And I was told age 8, it was really symbolizing eternal life. And this candle would never go out. In fact, it was one person's job in the church to make sure this candle would never go out. And I totally believed it. And I decided age 8 or 9, that's the job I want. If I could have any job, I would sit and watch until it flickered. Not too soon, not too late, just at that moment of it when it extinguishes. I would lean over another candle and then I could relax for a while.
Wow.
And it moves me even speaking about it now, because that has been my entire path. So later I befriended the daughter of the man who had the job when I was maybe 10 or 12, and I was so interested in this job. And I said, I would love your dad's job looking after this candle forever. And she shattered my dreams by saying, oh no, he lets it go out at night. I was heartbroken. It was such a sense of betrayal. How could you possibly break that commitment, break that eternity? You know, how could you just go to sleep while the candle is out and pretend you've done it in the morning? So I just totally vowed that I would not have that particular job. But actually, when I look back now, Luke, I did it. So I became a nurse, and I specialized on people who were dying very early on in my life, 16, 17, 18. And it was exactly that same moment of just, you know, helping people to prepare for that moment of the last breath, with that light extinguishes from this side of the world. And what I noticed was there's an igniting of everything around. The person had stopped breathing. They were obviously dead, but there's a state of grace. There is a state of connection and love. It just completely fills the room and the house for about 4 or 5 days. It's palpable and you can actually experience it. So for me to facilitate that transformation. To let in the Catholic beliefs, it's you let this body go, this one goes, and your soul rises. The ultimate freedom, the ultimate the goal in one sense, to become one with all that is. So in my nursing, I did it. I would help people find what they really wanted. Often they really wanted to go home. They really wanted to know the truth. They didn't want to hang around in hospitals with any more tests or being on some diet or not have any beers. So I was such a rebel. I was completely always messing up the system and saying, whispering in their ear, you're not going to actually be able to get better. Here's a form. Ask for the form to sign yourself out. Go home. Have a great time. And I've had many people thank me for that afterwards, which normally nurses are not allowed to say these things. But I always broke the rules. I break them. I go with where we need to go.
But in going with where you need to go, breaking the rules that society has set up in, the best way we see fit. But really, it sounds like what you're following is that eternal light, which is life itself, which is this human. If we're drawn to something, or you and I have talked about the deepest desire, and that almost drawing people forward. And so
walking that from the dark into the light, it was such a well-trodden path for me that the dark doesn't get a chance. Even one little candle cannot be extinguished by the dark. It will illuminate. So, since I was so enthusiastic and such a full-on zest for life, it didn't hang around. I'm not really attracted much to dark or suffering, but I also never turned my back on it. So as a teenager, I sang this song, Like a Bridge Over Troubled Water, I Will Lay Me Down. I was singing it forever. I was playing the accordion, singing it. And I think that's the other part that became my life. When there is trouble on the other side, I actually go towards it. There are currently only 10% of the population who like conflict. I'm one of them. When there's a conflict, when there is an upset, when there is suffering, I go towards it. And I lean in and say, let's see what's here. Because in every argument, in every fight, there's a spark. People say finally what they may have wanted to say for a long time. They have the courage to, say things. And so to facilitate that spark, to tell the truth and to transform, is so much easier than trying to chase somebody down who's pretending they're happy, but they're not. But they're not opening up. So once they're already cracked open, really lean towards it and go, now let's move.
So has there been, as you've continued to work with your life, you did nursing for a while and then got into really coaching and facilitating. Has there been a point of, you and I talked about the difference between battle and struggle. So I'll say, has there ever been a point of just a really, really tough battle that you thought, just me being the single candle coming into this darkness, that may not be enough?
Yeah, of course, I had been preparing with all these people dying. That was my nursing background. And then my own father had terminal illness, and he was a hunter. And he actually believed that if an animal is sick, you give it some mercy killing, you shoot it. And even his own dog, hunters had this code of ethics that a hunter's dog has to be shot by the hunter themselves with their own bullet, which is sort of strange. But he had it that he himself actually wanted to tell. He said, tell me the truth. Do I have cancer and will I get better? And then I will go and shoot myself. So even though I thought I was all prepared with all other people, when it came to very much to myself, not having been 30 years old, not really knowing all that much, and wanting to have my dad stay alive, I evaded the question and said, well, we'll see. But the next day, his guns were gone. The pistol was gone from his bedside. The guns were away. And then he knew. He said, you don't need to tell me, I know.
Yeah.
So this was a very difficult time. He then wanted me to give him an overdose because I had as much morphine at my exposure as I wanted. The GP never was going to ask any questions towards the end of his life, and then he kept just begging me to just make an end. And I was able to be in integrity and say to him, I promise you will not have any pain, you will not be scared, but for the moment, I'm not going to give you a lethal injection. And luckily, grace came into play the last 2 or 3 days because he'd been on hunger strike. He wanted to die. He forgot everything. He got sort of in a state of dementia towards the last few days of his life. And he just woke up and said, where's my breakfast? And we had the most magnificent 3 days. So that was a very, very difficult time.
Yeah.
To deal with. And afterwards, I had 5 children in 6 years, very early on in my life. At 22 to 28, I had 5 children.
Wow.
And then at 30, my dad dies. And so I had completely relied on him as a safety net, just in case this experiment with this living in England, getting married, having this massive family, he was really very much part of that. So it really was a tricky time where I had to dig deep, really dig deep and say, why would I say this to him now? What is really the purpose? And go inching my way forward into the faith of, well, I don't really want to do it, although I could. I mean, if it had been the case that I needed to help him to die in other ways, maybe I would have. I don't know. I'm not judging people who do it because you really don't know what you can be capable of doing if you really love somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, how do we prepare ourselves for that?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
by being vigilant. I mean, just being vigilant, look. You can prepare yourself because I'd already had life give me all these dress rehearsals with other people. So I sort of knew the framework, but in the moment, all you can be prepared of is trust that love will show the way through.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even just thinking about that and even, you know, we have the tools and you were trained and you were given sort of the practices, you know, throughout life with your own work. And then here it's almost like, okay, this is the real deal now. And it's it's got to be the closest thing to you. And for you to sort of have the vigilance, have that awareness to say, you know, I'm gonna act through love with this.
Yeah.
And
I'm not afraid. I'm also not afraid of death. And this is when you're not afraid of death, I'm just not really afraid of anything else. That sort of seems to be the ultimate fear that we harbor.
Yeah.
So I was able later on in life when I did, after having 10 people in my home, myself, my family, my children, and also other disabled adults with learning disabilities for 15 years. I was just running a full-on home, organic food, you name it, between sort of in my 20s and early 30s. I totally immersed myself in whatever I'm doing 100%.
Right.
And then I did More to Life, like other consultants have done as well, where it's really this awakening in the moment was much more structured, had much more of a method to it. I loved it. I traveled all over the world as a senior trainer and worked with people from all the way from government to prisons. I worked in prisons, Texas, and to help the prisoners to see they're not a number. You know, they matter. It matters. Human beings matter. And the other part I was teaching is it's all forgivable. I really do believe that it's forgivable. It's not that we condone it and say it was okay what you did, but I can let go. And having worked with some people who've had the most horrendous things happening in their lifetime, and they're able to forgive, who am I to say it can't be done?
Yeah.
I've seen it done. Myself and in other people. So that's also a great leveler. You know it's possible. And so I have a reputation. People come to me with things, couples and others, help me to get over whatever I need to get over.
Yeah.
And then the other part of my work has been that I'm very much into peak performance. Let's be the best we can ever be, just in case life is shorter than we think.
Yeah.
Why not live it fully?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the privilege of working with Premiership Football Club, with Arsenal, with the big institution of the European Bank, multi-million euro projects in Beirut as a mediator, which I had never done before. Actually, when they said, "Are you a mediator?" I just said yes. I hadn't actually done it.
Yeah.
And so my first job was with 20 stakeholders in a huge, security building in the middle of Beirut, getting everybody to agree that the sewage plant needs to be built where the gravity is its lowest, and really putting the most marginalized people on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I love looking out for people who are the minority voice, who are otherwise swept aside. Different tribes in the world. I'm very interested in American Indians and certain tribes in Africa and Aborigine. Those people know things, and we have just brushed them aside as some sort of old-fashioned, primitive people.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the wisdom that they hold and how we could actually spend some time with them and learn.
So throughout all your work, and this is one thing that's always interested me with our conversations, is that it has, although it's been peak performance, or it's been, working with a financial industry or NGOs, there's always been this sort of spiritual or Aborigine or some connection like that. What has been, I guess, the most impactful lesson you've learned from a more holistic spiritual study that you've done?
I think it's all the same. When I deal with human beings, basically human beings are fallible. They screw up. We screw up, and sometimes really big time.
Yeah.
And it's forgivable. So let's wipe that clean. Let's start over. I just love that about my faith. Let's start over.
Yeah.
Not too late. It's not a faith like some faiths that believe in karma. You can't just do anything about it. This is your lot this time around. It's not been my experience. I really have a very deep faith in human beings being not just resilient, but being in a way holy inside. There's something inside of them that cannot be damaged. It cannot be destroyed. And the minute I speak to that, in whatever context, it could be in football, or it could be in business, or it could be in a mediation with couples, or in the moment of their death, I connect with that part. And at that moment, the light comes on and something else shows up alongside us.
Yeah. Wow.
Which to me is such a joy.
Yeah.
And it's so effortless, because in a way I have to get my ego out of the way. That took 30 years. So yes, that was a strong willfulness. But that's just been put to one side most of the time, and I'm here to learn. And I'm here to teach.
Yeah. So if you were to, in this moment now, and living this full, vibrant life that you've lived, put your why, that deepest desire, to words, what does that look like for you?
Well, the thing that comes up for me right this very moment, why do I do what I do? Because it matters. I really think people matter.
Yeah.
And our planet matters. And I am very deliberate, because I wanted to pass it forward to another generation, not in a too bad a shape, but that the species can go forward for as long as we don't disqualify ourselves. And I want to do my part to it, to sustain it, to have a light footprint, because I care. I really do care about the planet, I do care about all its animals, and I care about all the people on it, all 7 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that combined wisdom and consciousness can bring, I'm sure going to put my shoulder to that wheel.
Yeah. Would you say that being the light in the darkness, that caring for others and showing love to others and continuing to show up for others is really a means, it's a medium to get to that, okay, you know, if I love you, maybe then you will have a little bit more love for the things around you, this world that you live in?
Yeah, you can impact others. We impact so many people in one lifetime, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Above the line or below the line, we impact people, and I want to put my energy to the sources that influence and impact people, that bring evolution and preferably revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That is fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like fast change because we're dragging our feet. And I'm quite a political person in a sense of looking at societies and the way we run our countries and the way we govern. And I'm thinking to myself, we're not really very smart. We haven't quite figured out how to live with such diversity on the planet.
Yeah.
Such different people who all matter. And I want to put the best brains and hearts in the world together and make it move, just like you. This your generation of bloggers, you know, who have millions of people following. I think that's marvelous.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're, you know, collaborating on this message, what is something that you want to really leave, you know, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-grandchildren, and just, you know, the children of the earth as we continue to grow?
What I want them to have, or what I want to leave as a
what's a guide, a small piece of guidance, or you know, I don't want to say advice really, but just you know, something you've really learned that you want them to really take on and cultivate in their own to make this world a better place.
Yeah, to make it a better place. Well, my daughter is a very successful woman in her own right. And the other day I said to her, what did I do as a mother? If you were to sum it up in one sentence that really made a difference. Mm-hmm. And she said, you used to say, get back on that horse. We had ponies and she would fall off, and we had quite a naughty pony. And every time she was sort of coming back saying, I can't do it, I apparently said, get back on that horse. So in a way, it's that attitude of don't quit. Let's find a way. And my tagline on my website is there's always a way in, a way out, and a way through. So there's always something that we can do either on our own or together. So let's find that part and be brave and be kind. If I can do that, if I can leave that behind, and my grandchildren have lots of stories to tell when they are with me. We do lots of crazy things that nobody really would do. We break all the rules. And they love it. They love it because I want them to think outside the box. I don't want them to just have good manners, be good people. There's more to it than that. One has to think on your feet at times. You don't know if there's a moment in your life where there are no rules. One has to really look deep inside and find a compass that says north. That's where we go.
Yeah.
And so they do things. So I want to leave experiences. I really want to leave them with stories and a sense of, wow, grandma did that. And therefore I can inspire. And I'm touching 4 or 5 generations at the moment on a daily basis. And I think, wow, I've had teachers like that are with me every day. I think if they can do it, I can do it. A small part of it.
Wow. Wow, I love it. Briggy, how can young adults out there, how can anybody stay connected with you? Do you have a website? Is there social media we can follow you on? How can we stay connected with what you've got going on?
Thank goodness, Luke. My name is completely unique. There is not one other person of the 7 billion people. But if you actually look for Briggy Kiddle, all you ever find is me. So
that's amazing.
Amazing thing. I do have a website, and you can find me on that, or you can find me anywhere you put my name in.
Wonderful, wonderful.
But
Yeah,
I do want to say the work that I do with Scott and Roy, with Whitten and Roy,
yeah,
is the motto is wake up, show up, sell well. And for me, it's wake up, show up, live well.
yeah,
Really. And each one of those is an art. How to wake up. How do I really, really wake up every day and be conscious? That is an ongoing practice for the rest of one's life. And then how to show up. You don't need to do it other than when you're required to do it in everyday events. And then live well, sell well, parent well, anything you want to plug into that.
yeah,
Do it well
yeah,
and be right.
yeah. And
Not
all
right, perfect, but right.
yeah,
Your inner compass is saying,
right.
that's the way I want to go in
Yeah.
my integrity. Let's do it that way. You're going to be taken care of.
To follow that plug, I mean, having studied with you and learning from you and all the other WRP consultants right now, that it's such a truth, to really be able to live it, be able to show up, be able to wake up, and put all of what we're learning into our own lives. And I think what you have unpacked for us today is essentially in that message of showing up, of waking up, and living well. So thank you so
Roy came
much.
up with that. I think it was marvelous. The shorter you say it, the better it is. And so Roy really is a genius in shortening into a few little words.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Briggy, thank you so much for taking some time with us today and sharing a little bit of your story and the wisdom that you're leaving on this planet.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm still accumulating it. I am planning to live another 40 years. I'm 61, so I'm planning to go to just over 100. So we'll see. It's going to be a ride, isn't it?
Yeah.
I depend on you and your generation to move it.
Well, we'll keep learning. We're here.
Yes.
Hopefully we're a bunch of open books.
Yes, please.
There
Thank
we go.
you very much, Luke, for your time and your inspiration and your vision for the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you.